Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up, they were chopping them down. It's an ancient Chinese art, and everybody knew their part. From a fainting to a slip, and a kicking from the hip. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning.
Hello everybody! Welcome once again to another edition of Quick Trivia with Mike. It's the weekly quiz show right here on channel 955 where we test your knowledge of facts. Sometimes a little bit more historic in nature, sometimes very contemporary, hopefully always a lot of fun. I am your host and the Quizmaster, Mike Brever. Today I'm joined by my very special guest, Carla Stephanie. Carla of C.G. Schmidt, right? Stefani. I'm sorry, see, the Quizmaster got one wrong right off the bat. So maybe she'll trip me up more as the show goes on. We'll see. You keep track, all right? I'm not very vain about being right all the time. So, Carla Stefani, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It is. Hopefully we're going to learn a little bit about the project as we move forward. But you know how we do this already. We give 3 answers to last week's questions, a brief intermission, 3 new questions for the coming week. But we always start the show with a brand new tradition here at Quick Trivia. I know you're a regular viewer, so you know what that tradition is, right?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Carla, you cut me to the quick.
I don't have cable in our office because I'm busy working.
But you, our seasoned viewers, know if you missed the show at 11 o'clock on Friday, 2 o'clock on Friday, or 4 o'clock on Sunday, you can watch it on YouTube.
YouTube?
YouTube!
What's that?
YouTube! So Carla apparently needs to be schooled on how to get into YouTube to watch Quick Trivia. At any rate, the new tradition is birthdays of the week.
Oh.
Birthdays of the week.
I love birthdays.
See, we all do too. We do here as well. So let's begin, shall we? On June 1st, Roy Johnson celebrates his birthday. On June 3rd, a brand new resident here at East Castle Place, Laura Hipp. Laura Hipp has her birthday. On June 8th, Sandra Meyer. Sandra Meyer is celebrating her birthday, and on June 10th, Harriet Herrick has her birthday. So if you see any of these birthday kids in the corridors over the next week, be sure to wish them happy birthday, and please do so from all of us here at Quick Trivia as well.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Well, Carla, we want to find out a little bit about what's going on here at East Castle Place. I know we've all seen things over the last 6-8 weeks already, but we want to know about the next 2, 3, or 4 weeks. What can we expect coming up? First of all, how far have we come along in the project already?
So, we are working hard with getting our demolition finished up in Bradford Terrace, and I'm going to...
Floors 1 and 2.
Floors 1 and 2.
Okay.
We're doing a little bit of plumbing for those of you on 3rd floor and 4th floor, I believe, so thanks for your patience allowing us to get in there and get some things switched out, but that type of work is going to be minimal. But 1st and 2nd floor, it's the cleanest, dirtiest construction piece I've ever seen. I was really impressed with our guys. It's real clean back there. We sent out a YouTube video.
I think we all saw it.
Yeah.
It was on channel 955.
Yeah,
it was great, a behind the scenes look.
Yeah, so that is absolutely where we're at. But the exciting part is what's coming up in the next coming weeks.
Well, before we get into the next coming weeks, let me ask you, did you find any surprises? Were there secret messages from the builders who really killed JFK? Was Jimmy Hoffa buried behind the walls? Was there a time capsule? A hoard of Confederate silver dollars left behind there?
I think a treasure chest
Really?
was found in there. Yeah.
A treasure chest?
In Tyler's office.
What everybody knows, the treasure chest is in the basement of Bradford. That's where you really find it.
That's where all the good stuff is.
That's where all the good stuff is. But, so no secret messages or anything, right?
No. We did find a safe that,
You really did?
yeah, we found a safe. And,
Was it open? Were you able to get it open?
we did not open it, but we
Okay.
handed it over to the proper folks that could open
The authorities?
it. Yes, yes.
Okay.
But it was pretty cool. We were like, this is pretty cool safe. Somebody was gonna take it home, but we figured we better check the contents first.
You mean like a small safe, a wall safe type thing?
Yeah,
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 okay,
so-
all right. Actually, those are pretty expensive.
Yes.
Really?
So keep locking up your belongings, so that's good, but don't forget to take them with you.
Word to the wise.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
So tell us now. I know we're going to see a lot of transition in corridors and common areas over the next 2 weeks, which will expand over the next maybe 6 to 8 weeks. Tell us what we can expect.
So this is actually my favorite part of the project, which is probably going to be the most painful part of the project for you. But this
For
common,
you?
yeah, for the people that live here, we know this is your home, but the commons area, so that's what we're calling this space, is the commons area. So we have it broken up into north and south. So we'll be working on the south piece first, which is your dining room. And we're gonna work really hard to try to get that open so you all can have Thanksgiving dinner down there. But
Okay.
you're gonna see, we have blue tape on the floor, and that is where our wall is gonna go up. So just like the walls we have in Bradford Terrace, we're gonna keep that nice clean. We are gonna give you some viewing windows.
Yeah, I
So
was going to
you
say, those
can-
aren't necessarily for privacy, they're for our
That's
safety,
for
right?
while your supervision,
Oh,
right?
okay,
So
yeah.
we know. But we also want you to see the progress, right? It's one thing if we have videos going and we're YouTubing it, but we think, and as well as you and Tyler and the leadership here, thought it was important that you guys could see the progress in real time. And that way it would prevent you from wanting to sneak behind the scenes.
Okay. Now, I know you're supposed to be done with Bradford Terrace well before you're done with the common areas on the first floor. But you kind of surprised me when you said you hope we'll be in the dining room again by Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well,
Really? That's
just
how long it'll take?
Just that south side.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing some little bit of stuff in the kitchen. We're gonna give you guys this beautiful bistro. The really cool part about it is the finishes that are gonna be down there.
I'm
are
looking forward to it.
Really, really spectacular. This is some of the most, I guess, elegant and complicated finish carpentry that I've had the pleasure to work with. And so we really want to make sure we take our time getting that stuff installed, making sure that we're taking out some big walls and really reconfiguring everything in there. So it should hopefully be done, but you know, as construction people, we want to be done by the end of September, but we're going to say, hey, we're hoping to be done by
Okay.
Thanksgiving. But
All right. Well, we've had this conversation before about timelines, and I'm always a little bit more of what I like to view as the pragmatist when it comes to timelines. And I know when we do projections, we want to be the optimist.
yes,
So hopefully, as we go forward, it'll be a little bit in the middle of both.
yes, absolutely. Because we are a little bit behind in Bradford Terrace. We're a couple weeks behind because of the surprises that aren't fun. And I'm not going to bore you with.
Well, you told me a little bit about a plumbing leak that
Yeah,
you ran into,
well-
but an hour or two and you were back on track, right?
Minutes.
Minutes for a plumbing leak. Duct tape is wonderful, just wonderful.
Don't ask where it is. It'll be fine. But
Right next to Jimmy Hoffa, I think that's where it is.
we rinsed him off. Yeah. There was just some things that you couldn't see. We don't have the original plans for it, so there were just some things that we had to kind of dig into a little bit further than we had anticipated, and then The abatement stuff, we found more in certain places, and so that took a little bit longer, and that puts everything behind. But luckily, that's first. So now we're gonna rock and roll and hopefully make up some time as we go. This crew is top notch. We were all talking yesterday. Our subcontractors, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, our fire protection team, everybody has been really amazing to work with, and we're all confident that we want to push that schedule as much as possible to get
that'd be
through
great.
it, to make up that time. But yeah, we are a little bit behind schedule from Bradford Terrace. Shouldn't impact our ability to do the Commons, but equally we're suspecting some of those hiccups to happen.
It's just a fact of life, right?
Yeah.
And I should explain, for the last 4 or 5, maybe 6 weeks, we've actually been taping this show in the beauty salon because there's so much going on around here. This is one of the few areas that, first of all, we can have some privacy. Second of all, it's comfortable. And third, there's not a bunch of noise in the background.
Not yet.
Not yet. That may be changing. So we're not really here for a touch-up. We're just here taping. So there you have it. Well, Carla, let's take a look at the 3 questions from last week, shall we?
Yes.
We talked a little bit about the entertainment industry, specifically the National Broadcasting Company, which actually was a surprise to me. I thought it was the National Broadcasting Corporation. But it's NBC, the American English Language Commercial Broadcast Television and Radio Network. Of course, with cable TV, there's, probably about 10 stations owned by NBC, so there's all kinds of new names for them. We talked specifically about in 1956, there was a brand new logo that NBC rolled out. Do you remember what that was?
The peacock?
The peacock! That is correct. We talked about the fact that there were 2 reasons for the peacock. One of them was the multicolored feathers in the back, promoting the fact that television was now in color, and NBC was broadcasting in color. So it was kind of a subliminal message. All these people with black and white sets, which actually, I had one as we were growing up. We only had one TV in the living room. It was black and white. Ironically, it was called a portable, but this was in the era of TV tubes and things like that. It must have weighed about 300 pounds,
Yeah.
but they put a handle on the top of it, and they called it a portable. We didn't have our first color TV until the mid-60s, and we only got that because my dad loved Bonanza, and Bonanza was in color.
My dad did too.
There you go!
I remember watching that.
Dads worldwide loved the Cartwrights. At any rate, there was a second reason for the introduction of the peacock and its colored feathers as the logo for NBC. And I asked you, our viewers, what that reason was. Do you know what it was? Do you have a guess, Carla?
I don't.
You don't.
Not at all.
It had to do with the ownership of NBC. NBC at that time was owned by RCA. RCA, an acronym for the Radio Corporation of America, also made television sets. But one of the first types of television sets they rolled out in the mid-50s was color television sets.
Oh.
So they wanted people to go out and buy brand new TVs. Therefore, they had a logo that was in color, promoting the fact that they're now broadcasting in color. But also, you should hurry up and buy your own TV set if all you've got is a black and white. And that was the 2 reasons for the new introduction of the peacock in 1956. Question number 1. Question number 2. Going to go back a little bit further in history. We're going to go back to the turn of the 20th century. 1899 to 1900. We took a little bit of a look at child labor. Back in that era, you remember, there were much larger families than there are now. Part of the reason was twofold. First of all, children were a form of income for the family. As early as possible, they were put out to work to help earn money for the family. Second of all, we didn't have things in that era like Medicare and Social Security, etc. children got older, they took care of their parents.
Yep.
Kind of a built-in retirement plan. Well, the 20th century really saw an introduction of child labor laws because it almost bordered on child cruelty. And at its peak, I asked our viewers, as factories multiplied in the mid-1800s and the early 1900s, so did the number of children working, mostly from poor families in urban settings. Although farms, of course, put all the kids to work as quickly as possible.
They still do.
In 1900, I asked you, our viewers, what was the percent of all workers, who were under the age of 16? Do you have a guess?
I'm going to say 15.
Yeah, that's amazingly close.
Oh.
It's actually up from that, though. In 1900, the percent of all American workers who were under the age of 16 was 18%.
Wow.
18%. A staggering amount of our children's population that had their childhood stolen, merely because of societal norms at the time. And actually, we really didn't get the introduction of real firm child labor laws until the New Deal. The New Deal really got children back where they belonged, on playgrounds and in backyards playing, rather than working heavy-duty machinery. How would you like to be at C.G. Schmidt supervising construction at Bradford Terrace and 18% of your workforce were under the age of 16?
I mean, I don't know. I have kids who could use a little bit of work, but maybe not like that. It's just so dangerous, right? Which is why obviously they created laws and unions and.
In fact, I worked my way through college in factories. Most of you know this. I worked a punch press for 4 years and I worked a shear for 2 years. I started doing that when I was 18. I worked full-time, went to school part-time, got my bachelor's degree. I got my first permanent partial disability when I was only 19 years old.
What?
Because I was working in a factory at the time. So just imagine what a 13 or a 14-year-old would be going through, or a 10-year-old. As soon as you were tall enough to reach machinery, you could go to work in factories at that time. So that was it. 18% of the population, 18% of the workforce population were under the age of 16.
I mean, I was dipping cows when I was 9 years old, so.
You were tipping cows? Is that what you said?
Dipping the udders.
I heard tipping cows was kind of a
that was maybe later on, but no, I'd help my dad. He'd take me to go help out on our neighbors' farms. And
okay. Did you get paid, or did your dad keep the money?
I'm pretty sure none of us got paid. It
was okay. Just helping out a neighbor.
Yep,
okay.
Yep.
My first actual paying job was helping my older brother on his paper route. He gave me not just a nickel a week. He gave me a shiny nickel every week for helping him on his paper route.
There you go.
So there you go. Our third question from last week, we really went off onto a tangent. We took a look at the island continent of Australia.
Ooh.
Australia! Kind of off on its own, a part of the British Empire, of course, still recognizes the Queen as its sovereign, although it does have a parliamentary form of democratic government. Something very interesting about the island continent of Australia is that rabbits are not indigenous to the continent. They were introduced to Australia as a new breed of animal that could be hunted. Kind of a game sport.
Sure.
In the mid-1800s, 24 were released with the intent for them to be fruitful and multiply and create game for hunting. Of course, they are the biggest nuisance in the world in Australia now, and you know why?
Because they didn't hunt them?
There are no natural predators.
Oh, no.
There are no natural predators for rabbits, so they just, I mean, they destroy farms now, and they become a real nuisance. There have been, new fencing was invented to deal with the rabbit population in Australia. Rabbit-proof fences, specifically in 1907, was introduced because of it. How many rabbits today Now, the first rabbits were introduced in 1859. In the year 2020, what was the estimated rabbit population in the island continent of Australia?
I'll say...
Within a million. Within 10 million.
No
Within
way!
10 million.
Oh my gosh.
Within 20 million.
Oh.
Give me within 20 million. What was the, and it's the feral rabbit, which means the wild rabbits in Australia. What is the feral rabbit population of Australia within 20 million?
I've got a 20 million.
Oh, sure.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go high.
Okay.
80 million.
200 million!
gosh.
200 million rabbits roam the Australian wild on the misguided concept that maybe 24 rabbits would be a game sport that would be fun to hunt.
Oh my gosh.
200 million rabbits. But they are cute, aren't they? My wife hates them because they eat our sunflowers. She works all spring to get sunflowers to come up. And when they get about this tall in our garden, rabbits eat the leaves off and then
I
they
think
die.
they need Elmer Fudd.
That could be.
The wascally rabbits.
Maybe we could send Mel Blanc over there and he could take care of them. We'll see.
That's the solution.
That's right. You know, Jack Benny one time said there really are only 6 people that work in Hollywood today. You know Jack Benny, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He said there really are only 6 people that work in Hollywood today. All the rest are just Mel Blanc.
Oh.
The man of 1,000 voices. Well, there you have it, folks. Those are our 3 answers from last week. We're going to take a brief intermission now. Carl and I are going to be here when you come back. I encourage you to go get a little bit of brain food because we have some real teasers for you in the second half. Go get yourself a donut, cup of coffee. Hurry back, though. Carl and I are going to be right here.
I'm June Lockhart, and I've served a lot of fried chicken to my family, but fried chicken can be a little greasy. That's why I'm so happy with shake and bake. You shake and bake. No frying, so your chicken comes out crispy, but not greasy like fried chicken. You can really taste the difference. Crispy, but not greasy like fried chicken. Shake and bake. It's better than frying.
Yes, I used to use Aerowax. If they've added plastic or something that gives a better shine, I'll use it again. Shine that lasts is all I want. Plastic? Sounds good.
Well, I've got a light-colored floor, and the brand I use now makes it yellow. So if the Aerowax people add more plastic and it won't yellow, great.
I like the idea of plastic.
Introducing new Aerowax with 50% more plastic. Ladies, we heard you.
Welcome back, everybody. Carl and I have been waiting here very patiently for you. I hope you got yourself a donut, a cup of coffee, because we've got some real brain teasers. But first, a little bit more conversation with Carla here. Carla Stefani, as we learned in the first half of the show. So when you pass her in the halls, Carla will do, but if you go for the last name too, it's Stefani. Carla, how long have you been at C.G. Schmidt?
I'm actually one of the newer employees. I started back last November.
Okay.
So
about a half a year.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is really my first project with C.G. Schmidt, but I've been doing construction for about, 7 years now.
Okay.
After active duty. Yep.
Okay. Now, I know, because you and I have spoken previously, you are in fact a veteran. What branch of the service were you in?
I was in the Air Force.
The Air Force. And were you in Hot Zone?
I was.
Okay.
We like to call it the beach with no water.
Which was?
So I was in northern Kuwait and in Iraq.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In what time period?
2007.
2007, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right when everything was really hot over there.
Yes, things were
Yeah.
a little bit busy, but luckily it was safe.
Well, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
We're all very grateful.
It's my honor.
Well, I know a lot of our residents here are veterans as well. Couple yet from World War II. Many, however, from the Korean War.
Sure.
maybe a few early ones, you know, from Vietnam, but World War II and the Korean War primarily. So thank you. We're very grateful.
And
What did you
thank
do
you.
in service?
So I was a medical officer
Okay.
when I was in service, and
So you're a trained nurse or doctor, surgeon,
actually,
brain surgeon? Because I could use some help.
I don't know that there's enough help out there.
I'm always trying, always, but no luck.
I was in mental health, so
Oh, okay, all right. I think we've talked about this before too. I have a daughter-in-law
Yes.
who does this as well. So it's a very, very difficult field of medical science, and I give you a lot of credit for it. I'm sure you've heard horrible stories,
I have, you know,
but you're involved in a healing process.
well, and there's the silver lining is that, you know, we all have a story, no matter how horrible or how good, but it's what we do with those stories, and that was really the beautiful part of being able to help someone take that story and make it something that's positive, or look, this is the person you are today, and look at how far you've come, because our men and women who serve are really just an amazing group of people to work with, and it was an honor to serve next to them as well as to be able to step in and help them, and just know that we value mental health even though we're rough and tough, and you know there's no crying in baseball and there's no crying in the military, but they recognize that that's not true, and
Yeah.
and it was a honorable, busy, but super, super rewarding. So I just tell folks I do mental health on buildings now, and
Which brings up the next topic. From our previous conversation, I know that you have your own business that you'd really like to see flourish someday, right?
yeah, I'm really interested in really getting more women involved in construction, and the Rosies from World War II, the Rosie the Riveters.
Rosie the Riveters,
Yep.
yeah,
They were a
absolutely.
huge inspiration as to why I joined the service. And I noticed that in construction as well, we could really, obviously we have a trades shortage, and I know there's a lot of women who are very curious about doing more, but they either feel like they don't have enough knowledge or they don't have enough confidence, and so that's my hope, is to really be able to help advance construction and opening it up not just to women but to anybody who's hesitant or maybe switching careers just like I did, and really helping that along. But yeah, my dream someday is to get business going again, but
Well-
for today, CG Schmidt has been awesome and supportive of, you know, all my crazy ideas, and hopefully someday they'll be a part of it too.
Tell me now, C.G. Schmidt has been in business for over a century,
Yes.
over 100 years. Not as long as East Castle Place. We've been here for 137 years now, but C.G. Schmidt's over 100. Depending on how you look at the budget for this construction project, with soft costs and furniture and fixtures and everything, it's either a $22 million project or a $25 million project or a $29 million project. Is this a big project for C.G. Schmidt?
What I love about CG Schmidt is that this is a good project
What a great way to put it.
for CG Schmidt. There are some people, they're on $100 million projects, and it's miserable. The owner's not very kind. They're not working with us, and sometimes you lose money even on those big ones. But this is kind of easy peasy for CG Schmidt.
Okay.
I think this
All
is
right.
definitely something that well within their wheelhouse, but they can go bigger. But what's important to CG Schmidt is the relationship, and that we're doing good things for our community, which is why I drive a very long way to work for them and to come here to East Castle, because I really wanted to work somewhere that
And
values
actually,
that.
you commute like 90 minutes each way every day, right?
Yeah.
So an hour and a half. So you're going to be with us through the duration, which is at least summer of 2023. What about, you know, those snowstorms this winter? Things like that. Do we have accommodations for you if necessary?
So in the treasure chest,
There you go.
We found a nice pink Lazy Boy, so I have that in my office in the event that either.
So you'll be here overnight?
Yeah, in the event that does happen. But I've also been assured that there are places that I can stay.
That's probably true. That's
that
probably true.
In the event that happens, I have probably more than enough offers to hang out locally here in the event of some sort of.
Okay. All right. Well, my wife and I live in Oak Creek, and it's a 5-bedroom house. You can come stay with us overnight if you have to.
Perfect. I don't know that I can afford the rent, but yes.
My wife does the cooking, though, so you don't have to worry about the food.
Okay.
That'll
Perfect.
work. And that's only 12 miles from here, so
Okay.
that's a much better ride than West Bend. Although we have a lot of staff that come. Is it roughly the West Bend area?
No,
It's even further north?
north of Fond du Lac.
Oh my gosh.
On the
north of
east
Fond du Lac.
side of Lake Winnebago.
Oh, okay. When I was young, and our kids were young, my wife and I would take our kids to the Pioneer Inn, which was right up there.
Yeah.
We loved it. It went out of business about 25 years ago.
Yeah,
We stopped
I remember.
having kids, and I think that drove them out of business because, you know, they just didn't have enough guests coming anymore.
Yeah,
So.
it's a very interesting place. If you ever want to talk about where I'm from, I bought my grandma and grandpa's house.
Wonderful.
They
I
built
love
in the
stories like
1890s,
that.
yep, and I'm
Love
remodeling that as we speak too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I love heritage stories like that. There should be a story behind everything in our lives, shouldn't there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. Everybody's got a story. I wish I had the time to sit down with each of you because I would love that. But.
Well, you're kinda with this right now. You're
Yeah.
getting a chance. So if you see Carla in the corridors over the next 16 months, 18 months, say hello. Find out a little bit more about the story. Well, Carla, let's take a little bit of a look at this week's questions, shall we? All right. We're going to take a look, first of all, at some Hollywood history. We're going to take a look at a very, very popular entertainer for almost 80 years. Leslie Townes Hope, otherwise known as Bob Hope.
Oh!
Bob Hope, born May 29th, 1903, died July 27th, 2003. 1903, 2003, 100 years old
God bless him.
at his passing. Only one marriage in all that time. Interesting story about Bob Hope. My great uncle, who passed away when I was only 8, so I didn't really get many of these stories from him. I got them from my great aunt. But my great uncle was a concert pianist, and he played in vaudeville. So he knew Bob Hope,
Wow.
as did my great aunt, who I heard this story from firsthand. She told me many times who her favorite entertainer was that she met and who her least favorite was. Her favorite entertainer was
Bob Hope.
Lawrence Welk.
Oh, wow.
She loved Lawrence Welk. He was just wonderful to all his peers and entertainers. Her least favorite was Bob Hope.
Oh.
She only knew Bob Hope in his vaudeville days, and apparently at that time he was kind of into Bob Hope.
Yeah.
We all know that Bob Hope became a much more seasoned person as time went on, and the world loves him now. He appeared in more than 70 short and feature films. 54 of the feature films had him as a star, many of those with his favorite sidekick, Bing Crosby. Their fake argument that lasted for decades truly was fake. He actually had a brief career as a boxer before he got into vaudeville in the late 19-teens. Then he got into vaudeville and radio, and the rest went off from there. He really, though, became a cultural icon, if you will, for his USO tours.
I was going to say, a huge supporter of our veterans.
That's right. From
Yeah.
1941 to 1991, he made 57 tours with the USO. And, I mean, the real strength of Bob Hope isn't just that he went overseas, but he induced all these other celebrities to come with him. And it became an annual. Growing up for me, watching the Bob Hope Christmas special was just an annual event. An annual event. Well, Bob Hope, actually, among his many, many, many awards, also won, now I know you're going to know the answer to this. These are the ones you can't give the answers to because our viewers are going to try to work on them for the week, and we'll come back next week. But he actually won, you know, he actually hosted the Oscars for 19 years. the record for hosting the Oscars for the longest period of time. He also won 5 Oscars. My question to you, our viewers, name 2 of the movies that Bob Hope earned his 5 Oscars for. Give us 2 of the movies that he earned Oscars for in his illustrious 80-year career. I can see you're thinking, so you probably got them already, but don't say them. When we go off the air, I'll share, as long as you promise not to tell anybody. All right, you saw it, you saw it. Number 2, going to go back even further in history. We're going to take a little bit of a look at the Quakers. Quakers are the people who belong to a historically Protestant Christian set of denominations known as the Religious Society of Friends. You know, they came to the New World because of religious persecution in England. William Penn got a large tract of land in Pennsylvania, but they really were well known throughout the colonies in the early days. Again, they came to the New World because of religious persecution. William Penn, of course, October 14th, 1644 to July 30th, 1718, just got a large tract of land in North America because King Charles II owed him a huge sum of money and decided not to pay him.
Oh.
So he said, here's a whole bunch of land. Go over to the New World, that's how you're getting paid. So he did. Of course, it became the homeland for the Quakers. We've actually had one president who was a Quaker. Do you know who that was?
Ooh, I don't.
You don't? Really? I get to trick you up on this one too?
I'd have to really dig back.
His middle name was Milhouse. Richard Milhouse Nixon.
Oh.
Was a Quaker.
Really?
He was a Quaker. That is correct. I don't know that he was a practicing Quaker, but he was a Quaker. My question to our viewers, as I said, Pennsylvania is where they primarily were, but they did spread out throughout the colonies. On May 11th, 1682, Massachusetts repealed a law of theirs which made life for Quakers much more tolerable. What was that law? What was the law on May 11th, 1682 that the Massachusetts colony repealed and made life much easier for Quakers? That, my friends, is question number 2. Question number 3. We're going to take a little bit of a look at diamonds.
Ooh.
There you go, a woman's best friend, correct? Diamond is a solid form of the element carbon, with its atoms arranged in a crystal structure called diamond cubic. At room temperature and pressure, now it's another solid form of carbon, graphite, also coal. So in essence, diamonds come from coal that has been placed under a great deal of heat that rearranges, and pressure, that rearranges the atoms, and all of a sudden you have a crystalline form that becomes diamonds. Diamonds are the strongest element known to man. That's why you see a lot of diamond-tipped drills and
Yes.
things like that. The easiest way to get through diamonds is that there typically are flaws in the diamond that you can splice a diamond by hitting it just right. If you're not a seasoned professional, though, you will shatter the diamond and absolutely destroy its value. Okay? It's obviously very, very useful in science, and you can test a diamond by the Vickers hardness test, which is tested on the Mohs scale as well. Those are the 2 ways that you know for a fact you've got a diamond. I'm sure you know all about the Vickers test.
I'm like, I didn't know that I was going to be back in science class.
Well, there you go. Diamonds, by the way, their surface cannot be wetted by water. Did you know that? Water just rolls off. The only way you can wet a surface of a diamond is with oil. Here's an interesting point, though, and it's our question for you, our viewers. Dan Frost, a scientist at the Biorisches Geo-Institute in Germany successfully turned a food product into diamonds. What is the food product that Dan Frost created diamonds out of when he was actually experimenting, trying to do something else? What is that food product that he created diamonds out of? That, my friends, is question number 3.
I need to tune in next week.
These are great, aren't they?
Yeah.
We try to go off on a variety of topics, a little bit of interesting things for everybody. So there you go. There you have it, folks. That's our show for this week. I'd really like to thank the president of ECTV, Tyler Gudex. I'd like to thank our executive producer, Stacy Abbott. I'd like to thank my producer and editor, Scott McFerrin. I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Anything you like about Quick Trivia probably has Scott's fingerprints all over it. I would also really like to thank my special guest host of the week, Carla Stefani. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Great, I had a lot of fun today. I hope you come back sometime.
I would love to, as long as they let me.
Well, I don't think we divulged any super secret things today. We didn't find out where anybody was buried in Bradford Terrace, or if there was a time capsule or anything. Who really killed JFK?
Well, I just don't want my peers and colleagues from the rest of C.G. Schmidt to know that I get to come here and do trivia shows.
There you go.
Not your typical day on a construction site.
We'll have to talk to the Schmidts and see if we can get this to be part of your job description.
I think Eric Schmidt should be here.
Well, maybe so. Maybe we'll get him on the show
Yeah.
sometime. I think he'd have a lot of fun, don't you?
I think he'd be great. Yeah.
All right. As always, I am your host and the Quizmaster, Mike Brever. I really want to thank you all for tuning in as well. I know you have a lot of things you can do with a half an hour, and I think this week we ran a little bit long, but I really thank you for spending this time with us. As always, as we get ready for next week's show, I want to remind you of those very, very famous words of the recently departed Betty White. You know Betty White, right?
Betty White.
One of your favorite actresses.
I love Betty
You know,
White.
great television roles with the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and
Golden
wonderful other
Girls,
things.
yeah.
Golden Girls, just wonderful. You know, she passed away earlier this year, a couple of weeks shy of her 100th birthday.
Yes.
But she was noted in her later years for giving great advice to people. And she often said that she highly recommends that everybody get 8 hours of beauty sleep every night. Unless, of course, you're ugly, in which case she recommends you get 9. There you go, everybody. So long, and we'll see you next week.